So it's a very windy day, unfortunately, but I'm in London doing a couple of things, not connected with the Lord Lucan case, but I thought I'd just take this opportunity to walk over some old ground here again, and we'll just make sure people understand the location of the house where Lucan committed suicide in the very early hours of the morning of Friday the 8th of November 1974. It's all a long time ago now, but there's still some people who are interested in the Lucan case. So let's just have a walk. All pretty close to Victoria Station here, with the usual noise that you'd expect in central London. So as I say, it's just a quick walk around, not really aiming to edit this video at all, so excuse the raw footage. It's all part of the atmosphere of the whole thing, I think. So we're walking down now to just across this junction is Elizabeth Street. Well, the continuation of Elizabeth Street. We're in Elizabeth Street now anyway. So to my left is Ebury Street. This is where Lucan called on his friend immediately after the murder. And it was from Ebury Street that he went to. A vibrant summer's day, as Lord Lucan would have enjoyed. He'd been getting up around this time and then going for lunch at the Claremont Club. His favourite lamb cutlets. All these lovely Mews properties here in central London. Of course, just over there, Gerald Road is where the police station was, where Detective Superintendent Roy Ransom and Detective Chief Inspector Roy Renfrew. So they didn't have far to come at all. It's really, it's almost incomprehensible how all these, everything that happened in Lucan's life all happened within such a small confined area. You know, Elizabeth Street here. His flat just further down the road on the right hand side. That's where he moved into after moving out of the family home at 46 Lower Belgrave Street. Police station across the road, which of course doesn't exist any longer. It's now a load of, as I said in my previous videos, it's now very affluent apartments. You can see it there, just on the left-hand side. The former Gerald Road Police Station. So we proceed along here, proceed along Elizabeth Street. Next we'll come to, oh, don't forget, you know, again, this is very instrumental. It's all part of this fascinating case. Chester Square there. If you walk just off Elizabeth Street, around the corner to the left there, That is exactly where, and in fact we'll go there now, let's go there. This is where he called on Madeline Floorman, and she, because it was the, late at night, and she was home alone, she didn't answer. So of course from here, he literally just came out of Chester Square here, left there into Elizabeth Street, and he was virtually in Ebury Street, which is where he eventually found refuge with a friend of his, because Aspinall was not obtainable at that time. And it was later on in the evening that John Aspinall and the help, tremendous help that he was, it all came into play then. So just along here, this is all Chester Square. We can walk up Chester Square here. This is where Madeline Floorman lived. And it was rumoured, how true it was, I don't know, that the following day then on her doorstep she found some alleged blood. So this is 51 Chester Square. The door that Lucan came knocking at, but found no help. So what we'll do now, we'll walk back. So back out of Chester Square here. And you can go out either way, either that way or just over there. So as soon as it'll take us to the same place, which is Elizabeth Street. So we'll have a walk over here. A lot of these parks here are specifically for residents, and some of them you have to get a key to actually gain entry. You imagine the rich people who live around here, but mind you, I can't see these millionaires and billionaires actually making much use of these parks, but the Lucan children used to be taken by Sandra, their nanny, into these parks. So in a moment there, we'll come back out onto Elizabeth Street, we'll take a right, and then further down the road on the right hand side, as featured in my previous video, it will show where Lucan was living in when everything went wrong for him. It's literally just down here on the right hand side. More posh residents here, private mews. These are very, very expensive properties. Very expensive properties. More mews, Eaton mews over there. And once again, coming back onto old territory. Where are we? This is where Lord Lucan was living on the night of the murder of Sandra Rivett. 72A Elizabeth Street. And then Lyall Street is the other side of those traffic lights. And Lyall Street is where it all ended for Lord Lucan. So let's just get our bearings here. Got Eaton Square. Square over there. Elizabeth Street. And then you're looking back in the direction of Chester Square and Ebury Street. Just cross over here. Amazingly affluent area, full of millionaires, as I say, and billionaires, and also foreign embassies. So, that's Elizabeth Street. And now we go into Lyall Street. So, just further along here, out of interest, when all this was actually, when the Lucan case was going on, you have a look over there straight ahead, Eaton Square off to my left. Up there is number 65, Eaton Square. And at the time, London Weekend Television had a very popular drama series called Upstairs, Downstairs. And the exterior shots were actually filmed in Eaton Square at allegedly 165 Eaton Square. However, there is no 165 Eaton Square. The set creators for London Weekend Television simply put a 1 in front of the 6. So the exterior shots were actually filmed at 65 Eaton Square. And the reason I say bring this up is basically that it was very much an upstairs downstairs situation with the Lucan family, the nanny, the children, very much the same sort of situation. So, walking along now, this is Lyall Street. John Aspinall, his home at the time. John Aspinall, of course, is a well-known animal conservationist, known particularly for his work with conservation of gorillas. And that connection and the Democratic Republic of Congo in Africa, this may well have been where the theory that, Aspinall being Lucan's friend and connections to Africa, and the fact that the Lucan family themselves had connections and family in Africa, I think over the years this has actually built the whole silly notion up that Lucan managed to evade capture by the detectives Ransom and Goering, and it was fueled over many, many years in the media and alleged sightings of him abroad. Myself, I even thought at one stage that he had successfully eluded police and travelled to Namibia and Mozambique. And in fact, on one occasion in Mozambique, I had a bit of a strange experience in a hotel there. And I thought for a brief moment that perhaps that was Lord Lucan that I'd actually seen, but Of course it wasn't. And you have all these documentaries, and one recently to commemorate the recent anniversary of the Lucan case, where 5 Mile Films were given nearly £1 million of taxpayers' money from the BBC to follow one of Sandra Rivett's sons on a wild goose chase out to Australia. When the film company actually knew that Lord Lucan had killed himself years ago. I'd had an 11-year relationship with Lady Lucan through email contacts and through meeting her in London, and of course a pretty good social time for a period of time with George, the present 8th Earl of Lucan. It's a very interesting case anyway. So the house is here. This is where Lord Lucan, in the early hours of Friday the 8th of November 1974, committed suicide in this very building. I'm not aware of what room it was in, but through a cocktail of drink and drugs, he knew that there was no way out and that he had to do the honourable thing. So it's this house here in Lyall Street. And then the story was, that's been put around for all these years, that the Ford Corsair car that Lucan had borrowed from his friend Michael Stoop, a fellow gambler of the Claremont Club and the St James's Club, the Ford Corsair, it was rumoured that Lucan had driven it all the way down to Newhaven and dumped it there. And again, it was all building part of the contrived picture to create the image that he had jumped on to the ferry, and then when it was out at sea, he jumped overboard into the ship's propellers, never to be seen again. A complete load of utter nonsense. Good for a story in the paper, particularly every year when the anniversary comes up, but complete nonsense. 2 employees of Aspinall actually used a horsebox to transport the Ford Corsair. It was taken down to Newhaven and it was dumped in a very, very strange place at the port, but not on the side where Lucan would have caught the ferry, the passenger ferry. And that was a bit of a cock-up in the whole thing, which was quickly discovered by Dave Gehring, the second in command. And he didn't believe a word that Susan Maxwell Scott had said, because, of course, it was alleged that he had called at her house, first of all, in Uckfield, and then drove the short distance, I think some 14, 15 miles to Newhaven, dumped the car, boarded the ferry, and jumped overboard. So she covered for him for all those years. And I suppose you can only call her a loyal friend. As she said to the press, loyalty is the highest morality. What else could I have done? But she was a trained barrister as well, so it's a bit sort of strange, the whole situation. But she didn't need to practice. She didn't need the money. She lived in a wonderful house in Uckfield, the result of a big win for her husband, Ian Maxwell Scott, at gambling. So she was comfortable. All she wanted to do was to protect her friend and someone who she was intimate with, and that was John, Lord Lucan, the 7th Earl of Lucan. So there we have it finally, Lyall Mews. The house, as I say, where Lord Lucan committed suicide in the early hours of Friday, the 8th of November 1974. And it was very ironic that years later, Lady Lucan, estranged from her children, believed she was suffering with an incurable disease, actually killed herself by the same method, a cocktail of alcohol and drugs. I'd like to finally think that the wild goose chase for Lord Lucan, that is still to this day, we're now in May 2025, still to this day being pursued by Neil Berryman, which was appallingly supported by 5 Mile Film Productions. I would like to think that Neil could one day very soon accept that he is never going to find Lord Lucan. Lord Lucan left this world a long time ago, and there is no DNA evidence left to find. In memory now of Sandra Rivett, that's the closing chapter.